I was there the night everything changed, standing behind the counter of Rosewood Diner, refilling sugar jars and pretending not to notice the quiet storm settling over the corner booth. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind of night when the town felt small enough to hear your own heartbeat, and the diner lights hummed with a tired glow.And, and that's when he walked in. I recognized him the moment he stepped through the door. Elias Mercer, the most private billionaire our state had ever whispered about. People rarely saw him in public, and when they did, he always looked like a man carrying a graveyard in his chest. He wasn't dressed like wealth tonight, just a simple coat, a wrinkled shirt, and eyes that looked like they hadn't slept in years. But the real story began when he saw her. Lena, our newest waitress. Gentle, quiet, always tucking her hair behind her ear as if apologizing for existing. She didn't know who he was. She treated him like any tired soul trying to grab a meal before heading somewhere lonely. "Good evening, sir," she said softly. "Booth or counter?" He hesitated. His gaze drifted to her hands, her left hand in particular. And that's when it happened. I saw the color drain from his face. Not slowly, instantly, like the world had just punched the air out of him. Because on her finger sat a ring, a very specific ring, a ring that, according to every newspaper, every obituary, and every tragic headline, was buried with his wife 3 years ago. I froze. Even before he spoke, I felt it, the shift in the air, the tightening of his jaw, the way grief crawled up his spine like a ghost returning home. "Where did you get that?" Elias whispered, voice shaking in a way I never expected from a man like him. Lena blinked, confused. "The ring?" "Oh, it was in an old jewelry box I found at a thrift store. I liked the design." "Why?" His fingers trembled. "That ring belonged to my wife." Lena froze. I could see her throat move as she swallowed, eyes widening like she had accidentally opened a grave instead of a jewelry box. "Before I tell you what happened next, where are you watching this story from? Comment down below. I love seeing how far these stories travel." Now back to that moment. Elias stepped closer. Not aggressive, not angry, just stunned, hollow, shaken. Like he'd seen a ghost wearing a waitress uniform. "My wife wore that ring every day," he murmured. "And when she passed, I placed it on her hand myself, before the casket closed." Lena's hands trembled so badly, she almost dropped the coffee pot she was holding. I swear, sir, I didn't steal it. I bought it for $5 at Willow Thrift. I didn't know it belonged to someone." "I'm so sorry. I'm not accusing you," Elias said quickly. His voice cracked. "I just don't understand." And neither did I. The diner was silent. Even the old jukebox seemed to stop humming. It was the kind of silence that forces you to breathe slowly or risk getting swallowed by it. Finally, Lena pulled out a chair. "Please sit. Let me get you some water." "You look pale." He sat, hands still trembling, eyes fixed on the ring like it held the last bit of his wife's soul. When Lena walked away to fill the glass, he exhaled shakily. Then, since I was the closest one, he spoke to me quietly. "That ring, my wife engraved something inside it. Something only the two of us knew." I swallowed. "What did it say?" He shook his head. "I can't. It's too personal. But if it's the same ring, then I'll know." Lena returned with the water. Elias tried to steady himself, wiping his palms on his coat. "Can I?" he asked, reaching toward her hand. She nodded, easing the ring off her finger. When he took it, his breath hitched. He held the ring under the warm diner lights, tilted it, rotated it. Then, very gently, he ran his thumb along the inside, and his eyes filled with tears. "It's hers," he whispered. "God, it's hers." Lena covered her mouth. "I didn't know. I just found it. I swear." Elias shook his head again. No, you don't understand." He looked up at her, really looked. "This ring went into the ground with her. How did it reappear in a thrift store 3 years later? None of us had an answer. Then, slowly, Lena sat across from him. "There's something else," she said, voice quiet but steady. "When I bought it, the woman at the thrift store said it came in a donation box. An unmarked one. No one knows who dropped it off." Elias leaned back, stunned. His hands shook. His chest rose and fell like he was remembering something painful, something unfinished. "Sir," Lena whispered, "do you think someone might have taken it?" He closed his eyes. "Yes," he whispered. "I know exactly who would." He didn't say another word. Not yet. But something shifted in him, some old anger, some buried truth clawing its way up. And I swear, the entire diner leaned forward, as if the walls themselves wanted to hear the rest. Elias steadied his breathing, placed the ring gently on the table, and looked at Lena with eyes full of grief and gratitude. "You didn't just wear a ring," he said quietly. "You reopened a chapter I thought was buried forever." And that was when the door swung open, and the investigation into a 3-year-old betrayal truly began. I watched Mr. Caldwell stand there, completely still, as if the world had stopped spinning under his shoes. The chatter of the cafe faded into nothing, the forks clinking, the coffee machine steaming, even the doorbell jingling as new customers walked in. Everything dimmed around him, except that ring on Lily's finger. I could see the moment his breath left him. It was like watching a man's heart collapse inward. Lily didn't notice at first. She had turned back toward the counter, humming a song softly, the way she always did when she was nervous. But when she felt his eyes still burning on her, she looked back. "Is something wrong?" she asked, voice trembling. Mr. Caldwell shook his head, but his hands betrayed him, trembling violently. "You need to tell me," he said, barely above a whisper, "where you got that ring." Lily blinked. "Sir, that ring," he repeated, louder this time. "My wife was buried with it." The customers around us froze. I felt the air thicken. Lily's eyes widened, and she instinctively covered the ring with her other hand. I swear I didn't steal anything," she stammered. I found it." "Found it where?" His voice cracked. She swallowed hard. "On the mountain trail. 2 weeks ago." My heart sank. The mountain trail, the storm, the rescue headlines. It all crashed together in my mind. Lily took a shaky breath. There had been a landslide. I was hiking with my cousin, and while we were trying to move debris from a fallen tree, I found something between the rocks. She touched the ring gently. "This," Mr. Caldwell's eyes filled with a painful understanding. He reached for a chair, but his legs gave out before he could sit. I grabbed his arm and steadied him, and he didn't push me away. He just clung to the edge of the table like a drowning man clinging to driftwood. Lily crouched beside him. "Sir, your wife, was she lost in that storm too?" He nodded. And then right there in the cafe, with strangers watching, he broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just silently. Full of grief that had been waiting months to surface. Lily didn't speak again. She simply placed her hand gently on the table so he could see the ring clearly. She wasn't defending herself anymore. She was offering something back. After a long minute, he whispered, They told me her body couldn't be recovered, that the mountain swallowed her. But you," his voice shook, "you found this where they searched?" Lily nodded slowly. "We weren't deep on the trail. Maybe she tried to come down. Maybe she didn't make it far." His face twisted, a mix of hope and agony. I could barely breathe. This wasn't the kind of moment people like me expect to witness while wiping tables and refilling sugar jars. Finally, Mr. Caldwell reached out his hand, not for the ring, but for Lily's. "Thank you," he whispered. "You don't know how much this means." "I'm so sorry," she said softly. "No." He shook his head. "You gave me something back. Something I thought was gone forever." He didn't put the ring on his own hand. Instead, he held it gently, cradling it like something alive. Then Lily said something that surprised every single person in that cafe, including me. Maybe your wife wanted it to be found. He looked up. What do you mean? You said she loved the mountains, Lily said softly. Maybe she didn't want her story to just disappear in a storm. Maybe this was her way of coming home. The billionaire closed his eyes, and the tears slipped down his cheeks again. But this time, they weren't just grief. There was something else in them. Something like release. After a long, quiet moment, he stood up straighter, wiped his face, and slipped the ring into his breast pocket. I want you to come with me, he said. Lily stepped back. I can't leave my shift. I'll pay your manager for the whole day, he said gently. Please, just show me where you found it. I need to see it, the owner overheard. One look at Mr. Caldwell, then at Lily was enough. He nodded. Go, he said to her. We'll cover for you. And so they left together. The billionaire and the waitress walking side by side into something neither of them expected. I closed the cafe early that day, even though I wasn't supposed to. Because sometimes the world shows you something too heavy, too sacred, to go on with business as usual. Hours later, just as the evening light began to fade, Lily returned. Her clothes were dusty, her eyes red, but she carried a peace I had never seen in her before. He found her, she whispered. My heart jumped. Her body? She shook her head. No, but he found where she fell. The rescue team must have missed it because the trail had shifted. Lily's hands trembled. But when we cleared the rocks, he found something. A scarf, the one he bought her on their anniversary. She always wore it on hikes. Her voice cracked, and he said, now he can finally breathe. I felt tears sting my eyes. But then she added, he gave me something too. She pulled out a small velvet pouch. Inside was a new ring, simple, silver, with a tiny mountain engraved on it. He said it's not a reward, she whispered. It's a reminder. For both of us. That closure isn't about death. It's about truth. I stared at her, speechless. Then I asked the question that had been sitting in my chest since morning. What happens now? Between you and him? She smiled faintly, a sad, soft smile. Nothing romantic, she said. But I think he needed someone to help him face the last part of his grief. And he said he'll never forget that it was me. She looked out the window, watching cars pass under the streetlight glow. And I'll never forget him. A week later, he sent flowers to the cafe, white lily, and a note. Thank you for giving me back the last piece of her. The whole cafe fell silent reading it. And that's when I realized some stories don't end with weddings or confessions or dramatic promises. Some end with something quieter, something deeper, something human. And that's exactly what this was. A billionaire, a waitress, a ring. In grief that finally found a home.